Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there, and happy Pride Month to all of our LGBTQ people out there and all of our allies. Dale asked that a few of us would share our Pride Month testimonies, and so I've been given this opportunity to share sort of my experience on Father's Day, sort of as a father, and also just as a LGBTQ person, my experience of faith and my identity. I did not realize my sexuality until later than most. I was 22, which probably surprises a lot of you, surprised me. At that point I met someone and sort of all the bells sort of went off, and I realized, oh, okay, well, this is the way it's supposed to feel. I dated that person for 6 months, and then that ended. At which point I was in sort of a spiritual conundrum because I had been raised in a very conservative faith. It was Landmark Missionary Baptist was the division. It was a conservative offshoot of the Southern Baptist Convention. And they were very clear about what their understanding of homosexuality was in the scripture. And so my understanding of it up until that point had been that a faith life and a life as a homosexual were completely incompatible. And if you look, of course, at the scriptures in Leviticus and the passages in the New Testament with Paul, of course, strictly speaking, those things line up. And so I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to dive back into the dating world because I didn't know if I was going to be able to live that part of my life and live a life of faith, because I knew I couldn't live without my faith. And this new part of my person, I thought, well, maybe I could live without, because I hadn't lived with it for 22 years. So I just decided to sort of put my dating world on hold and decided to just pray and take time. And so that's what I did. And I took a year. It wasn't really, I'm going to take a year. It just ended up taking a year. I read a lot of books. I talked to a lot of people. My roommate at the time suggested Exodus International, which for some of you, that's a defunct thing now, but it was a wing of Focus on the Family that did do conversion therapy. I only went to a couple of meetings and with a therapist, and I knew that it was not for me. It was basically, how to suppress my feelings and not, I thought I was going to go in and they were going to turn me into a heterosexual, and they were basically just going to, what they were saying is they were going to teach me how to basically kind of do AA for homosexuality, how to suppress what I was feeling, and that just wasn't good enough for me. And so, like I said, a lot of praying, a lot of reading, and I had one of those aha moments, one of those eureka moments for me. And I like things that are simple. I can be overly complicated. And I remembered one day in the midst of all of the crisis, I was under a lot of stress. My brother had just gotten married, and I remember crying and thinking how sad it was going to be that was never going to be a part of my story. That I was never going to be married, that I was never going to have kids. Not that I had ever really looked forward to that before, but when you're thinking I'm never going to have that, it suddenly becomes very sad. And I remember my mom was my Sunday school teacher and my youth ministry educator, because we grew up in a small church. And you know those stickers that they always pass out to kids at least they used to. Of course, they used to do flannel graph too. But they used to pass out stickers to kids in Sunday school. And I just remembered this one sticker, and it said, God is love. And I thought about that, and I thought about that concept that if God is love, if God is the source of true, real love, and if that's what I'm looking for, if I'm not looking for, physical gratification and that kind of thing, if I'm looking for love, if I'm looking for, someone to be my partner, someone to be to walk through all of life's challenges, if I'm looking for someone to be that person to hold my hand until we pass on into the next existence, if I'm looking for love, and God is a source of real love, then it shouldn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. It just should matter that I love that person, and that love is a real and a true and a valuable love. And after that, it just all started clicking for me. It just all started making sense. And I didn't need, the justifications of, why Leviticus is an antiquated passage of scripture, and that if you live by all of the codes in Leviticus, you are going to be really messed up. But for me, it was simple. If I'm looking for love, if you're living a life that is filled with and searching for and hoping to create love, not just with another individual, but with everyone in general, then that's what God hopes for. That's what God's all about: loving one another, loving your fellow man. And if the love that I'm searching for just happens to be with my partner, and thankfully that's Lee Dyson, then that is something that God smiles upon and God finds joy in. And so it worked for me, and I found peace after that, and I was able to move forward. And God thankfully did plant Lee Tyson in my path, and eventually our beautiful children. Speaking of fathers, for my dad, it was a little bit different. My dad grew up in, we're talking about all these race relations. My dad grew up in a town where there were no people of color, and that was intentional. People who were of color were not welcome in the town. My dad, when he moved to the town that I grew up in, there were people of color there, and that was shocking for him, and then, my brother married a woman of color, and then, eventually, he has a son that comes out as gay, and not only is he gay, but he, we have children who are children of color. And so my dad had a steep curve to sort of educate and grow, and it was hard. My dad, confessed to me there were times where he was torn, he was upset, but my dad has, amazed me. He was not an easy parent when I was young. He was confused by the little boy he had who liked to play dress up with his sister more than he liked to play trucks. But he has learned to love me in all of my eccentricities, and he is a phenomenal grandfather. And as far as being a father, for me, it is the best job I will ever have. I am fortunate and blessed to be able to be a stay-at-home dad, but I have talked about it before, and I will say it to anyone who will listen. I love being a father. It is one of the most amazing. One of the most amazing experiences. It makes you so much richer as a person, so much more vulnerable. I think of those moments, all those moments that touch my heart, and so many of them have to do with my kids. Holding Emery for the first time, holding Lottie for the first time, watching them take their first steps, say their first words, go through all of the experiences of life and so many more experiences that are yet to come, and they make me a better person, and they make my heart soar, and they make my heart glow, and they make my life richer and better, and I am a better person for having them, because they make me want to be a better person for them. And so to all those fathers out there, thank you for all you do every day, for all your struggles. And when you feel you aren't enough, when you're feeling like you're not hitting the mark, just know it's not about being perfect. It's about being good enough. It's about getting through the day, and it's about loving them. Because at the end of the day, just like I said, God is love. The love that you give to your kids at the end of the day is more than enough. Just show them the love our Father gives us, that unconditional love, that all-encompassing, that grateful, that forgiving, that bathing love. And that's all they need at the end of the day. And that's all you need. Show it to them, show it to one another, and trust and know that your Father above shows it to you. Happy Father's Day. Happy Pride Month. Thanks.